body. That sounds like a very interesting topic. Over to you, Qasif.
Thank you. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, industry leaders, colleagues, friends, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very happy to be here. I was here the year before and the year before and the year before. And, the first year when this conference happened, I think that was 2009. I was here then also. And now 16 years later, this is 2023. And, the good thing is that, this conference has been the center stage of a lot of discussions that have happened over these 15 or 16 years. And a lot has changed, And, when you think of 2008 and 9, if you remember what was going on, were the feature phones and the Blackberries. And this was the place where people were coming in and getting excited about those changes. Because Pakistan at that time only had like 3 or 4 million landlines before the mobile revolution came. And then very quickly, we went on to have 100 million feature phones, Blackberries, etc. When Blackberries and feature phones were coming here, some of us used the same stage to make bold commitments. And some of those commitments were very outlandish, but some of them came true. One of the predictions we were making was that we would have 100 million people connected to mobile internet at the back of smartphones within the next 10 years. I made this prediction in 2009 and 10, and a lot of people were appalled. I was saying that we'll be the 8th largest country by number of people connected to the internet. I was wrong. We got here earlier. By 2017-18, we already had 100 million people connected to the internet. And we weren't the 8th largest country. We had grown in population and 6th largest country. At the same time, when they came with the BlackBerry people, new business models started to come out. And something that had changed the world then, and we talked about it here at this conference, is what was called the SMAC stack. It's an Indian company that came up with this acronym SMAC: Social, Mobile, Analytics, and Cloud. And the year is now 2011. And what became apparent was that the companies that are starting to build business models on social, mobile, analytic, and cloud, and these are technology stacks integrated together, which were ruling the world. Apple, Facebook, Google, Netflix, all of these companies, the smaller ones also, they all had models that were running on the SMAC stack. And we started to follow some of those things here in the emerging markets as well. And from SMAC stack came the next big paradigm change, and which is when the smartphones really evolved into what we call platform business modeling. This is a phenomenal paradigm that happened. Platform business modeling is what killed the Nokia domination. Nokia had like 40 different handphones, and Apple and Android came up with single sets. And they started to go out and create enabling app stores. And those app stores, people who were developing apps on those app stores were making the lion's share of revenue. So everybody, small companies, young people started to build apps. And Apple became, and Android became a platform with hundreds and thousands and then millions of apps that really made smartphone the most pervasive device. So that paradigm change happened. And then people realized that once you create a platform or you create an ecosystem, what you have is a flywheel. And on that flywheel, out and launch new use cases. And if a use case has a life, people start to sort of, if it doesn't have a life, you launch a new use case. And that's why Chinese don't talk about product launches, which span over years, but they talk about use cases. It's so much easier to go out and launch a use case on a flywheel. Apple today can come up with any new product, and hundreds of millions of people have an opportunity to go out and take that product, right? That's the platform business modeling. Again, a massive paradigm shift, that happened, which we witnessed here. And just last year, the industry changed again, and now we are starting to talk about embedded finance. And what is embedded finance? Embedded finance is something that allows banks to go invisible and then embed their banking into various SME and startup apps where payments and lending is starting to happen in non-financial digital portals and apps without altering customer journeys. And this is happening at the back of it's a new paradigm. Now, that paradigm, at the back of that paradigm is where AI is coming in. And the regenerative AI is an AI that goes out and allows these entities to make decisions in the real time. And it's real time decisioning that is now going to power embedded finance. And embedded finance is one of the biggest movements in financial services, which is going to change everything. And we are in the middle of it, is what we spoke about in this conference last year. So I'm going to now go out and speak a little bit to you about, regenerative AI, its impact on banking, and also eventually how there are conversations around, eventually these things getting into the human body, and through a confluence of biotech and infotech in the next few years, the biggest data source is actually the human body. And there are so many biochemical reactions going on in the human body that there is an opportunity where the machines would be able to know more about you. They would know more about you than you. And when that happens, the algorithms are expected to take over individualism. And, want to talk a little bit about that. And just want to sort of get people excited about how, through these new paradigms that are coming upon us, we can reinvent the industry, given all the good work, that we've been doing here anyway. Okay, so these are the three things I talk about. I talk about AI, I talk a bit about its early application in digital financial services, and then eventually, the biohack play. So, the correct way to think about regenerative AI is a way to imagine it as an inorganic life form. Inorganic life form that is super intelligent, is a system and has agents around it, and it can learn, it can relearn, it can create, recreate, it can evolve, transform. Basically, regenerative AI has started to behave like biological systems that we have. Now, the biological organic life form on the planet has been around for 4 billion years. But the AI, regenerative AI, is only a year or two old. But the way it's evolving is very quickly, and people that are developing it are not even sure how quickly it's evolving. And one of the reasons for this super quick evolution is that AI is a super intelligent system which has agents, and once one part of the system learns something new, then all the other agents are updated immediately, which is very different than how organic life form evolves. So the trajectory on which these evolutions are happening is very quick. But today, it's like at its very infancy. What it's mastering right now is actually the language. So today, ChatGPT in the last few months has become the fastest downloadable thing that history's ever seen. So it's gone to 100 million users in absolutely no time. And what it's good at is images, text, code, etc. But what it's missing right now is that it doesn't have vision, and it has not gotten into the physicality of things, meaning that robotics has not come in. The next phase is ChatGPT 5, which is going to actually go into robotics, and these robotics does not have to come by AI companies. They could go out and collaborate with robotic companies and then go into physical, and then it's also developing a vision. All of this is happening very quickly. Now, once you're in the physical realm, and once you have vision, the way the feedback loops will operate in the regenerative AI is going to become even faster, and the way it's going to become clever is going to be astronomical. And that's what's bothering people. And now there are forums for AI safety, And, a lot of people are coming in and talking about that and asking questions that, is it a good idea for human beings to create intelligence which is smarter than themselves? Today, AI, regenerative AI, is smarter than human beings. I mean, human beings can't beat AI in a game of chess or in analysis and so many other things. Not only that this intelligence has become smarter, but it can actually replicate itself and grow in numbers, and it can self-create. There has been no invention in human history that can self-create. For example, a radio cannot go out and broadcast a program on its own and create one. AI can, right? So now there are a lot of conversations around sort of, controlling the long-term or managing the long-term implications of AI. And I'll talk a little bit towards the end of the talk now. But what is apparent, and what I want to talk a bit more, is how AI is going to go out and change the business modeling in all industries. It's starting to do that already, but how it's going to impact digital financial services as well. So this regenerative AI is different than normal AI. I mean, normal AI is everywhere. Like, I mean, eOcean's bot that we registered to is also using machine learning and AI. But this type of AI is more flexible, meaning that if it ran into any type of a problem, it's not going to give up and get confused. That's number one. Number two, it is a lot more resilient. So if it hits a brick wall, it won't just keep hitting the brick wall, it figure out different things. And all of this is happening in the real time. It can innovate on its own. It can go out and create new solutions as new data, etc., is inputted into it. Then it's more sustainable. Earlier AI models were requiring a lot of computing power, were generating heat, etc., but this is very sustainable, low power, and then it's scalable, meaning that it can scale itself up and down based on how it chooses, and nobody else is controlling it. Now, when you apply these things to business modeling, a bunch of stuff happens. For example, if we ask this regenerative AI to write an essay on the impact that mobile conference, this one, has had in the Pakistani digitization space over the last 16 years. If we were to go out and tell that, it would produce that essay. And as we read that essay, there is a new economy that's being produced, which is called prompt engineering. Now, through the prompt engineering, I can improve that essay. So let's say in the essay, I say that you have not given enough importance to the regulatory support that this forum has had over the years. The SCCP support, the PTA support, the Ministry of Finance support, the State Bank support. So when I go out and say that, it would reproduce that essay and it would create that influence, but now it's become smarter and it's always going to hold that position. So it's becoming more intuitive, and it's becoming assistive. And the way you go out and create prompts, you can get to a fine-tuning, a refinement with very little effort. So this is assistive business modeling. So if I'm in a business and I want to go out and create an advertising campaign, I could through prompts I could create an image, and I could through prompts improve that image. I could go out and create an advertising campaign, and through prompts I could go and sort of improve and launch that campaign, and the entire agent is doing that. Now, because AI today is getting so good at language, and this is the phase of AI development that we are in, it's mastering language very, very quickly. And what is language? Language is the operating model for hacking human psychology, because everything that human beings have is in language. For example, human rights is in language, the concept of God is in language, the way we interact with each other, all of these things are in language. So AI is becoming very, very good in using that language in creating meaningful relationships with hundreds of millions of people as we speak, passionate, intimate relationships using these languages. And then this language is now used in going out and creating next generation of bots. And these bots are so good that you can't tell whether you're speaking to an individual or to a machine. And one of the corrections that people want to make in legislation is that you have to disclose that you are a bot when you're speaking to it, because if you don't, then that could mean the end for democracy and so many other things. So through the combination of language and assistive technology, what's happening is that in digital financial services and other businesses, your ability to service your customers and at the cost at which you are going to do that is coming drastically down. So the way you service your customers through these bots and through and how you bring them on through assistive business modeling is changing very quickly. Now, the second big force that is changing is that now when you go out and write software code to build applications, you don't have to write that software code from the beginning to end. You're going to, this type of AI allows you to patch up different parts of code which is already written, and your software engineers are only focusing on customizing the code. So, for example, gaming, is a big multi-billion dollar industry. Generally, it takes about 6 months to a year to create a world-class game. But now, through this type of technology, those games are being produced in 3 days. So the only parallel that I can think of is digital photography versus analog photography. Analog photography costs. Digital photography is free. So if the games are several times lower than the cost they were, people are going to produce a lot of games. So when people produce a lot of games, very different things happen. Same things that happened when photography moved from analog to digital. Same thing is now going to happen in the way software development is going to happen in enterprises. So our ability to go out and build new software to service customers is astronomically coming down in cost. So our ability to service and onboard customers are coming down. Our ability to develop new software, because we'll only be writing customization for it, is coming down. That's the second play. The third big play is the fact that, and some of us would remember this, that in the past, there was a thing called a citizen developer. A citizen developer is an ordinary employee that would go out and start to develop software on platforms which were called zero-code platforms, or called low-code, no-code platforms, right? We all remember in our earlier days. I used to run a CRM for a bank in Singapore called Goldmine, and I could change things on the fly by dragging and dropping. Now what's happening is that through this AI, they're saying that in the next 3 to 4 years, 70 to 80% of programming that is going to be written in the enterprises are going to be written by non-tech people, because these AI interfaces are going to allow you to go out and talk through logic and write English and some of the other things, and it's going to go out and change things into programming format. So 80% of programming in the next few years is going to be written by non-tech people. Developing programming is becoming very cheap, because you don't have to develop the whole thing, and your ability to go out and service customers through these machine agents that are behaving like super intelligent human beings also coming in. So these type of models are really changing the way business is happening. Now, if you look at banks, so banks are now going in and implementing these things in various aspects. And a Goldman Sachs study is saying that within the next 3 to 5 years, 1/4 of the workforce is going to be operating very differently than what it's operating today. Within the next 5 years, 75% of companies that are more than 500 people, 5,000 people, are going to be leading through AI, machine learning, and things like that. 54% of financial services companies are already using AI and machine learning in their main play. And out of that 54, 70% are using it to predict cash flow events, whether these are cash flow events to solicit, upsell or lend or whatever, all of that is already happening. For example, at Finja, we've been lending for many years now, and we do small loans to businesses which are under 1 month, 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month, and a lot of work we do is within the supply chain verticals. But because our loans are so small and we've been doing it for many years, we've done close to $100 million of total lending throughput. Money comes, money goes. Now that is a lot of data. So we put all of that data in our machine learning AI algorithms, and what we are trying to do is to predict propensity of our users. For example, if we bring in a user, now we want to calculate that how likely is this user to go out and take a credit line again. So we need to predict that. And if we say he's unlikely to go out and do that, then we bring in a brand new set of promotions and communication and conversation to talk to them. And as we go out and change those communications and those prompts based on what the users are likely to do, the entire thing is becoming smarter and cleverer by the day, because it's going out and the communication that it's having with the users and the real-time feedbacks which are coming in are phenomenal. So now the machine can actually tell us which type of users to go after, how likely are they to take repeat loans, how likely are they going to upsell, how likely are they to default, and all of that. And with each passing week and each passing month, whatever we are doing relatively is becoming smarter. And that's phenomenal, because that then becomes a organization's unique selling proposition, or it becomes an advantage which is difficult to replicate. Similarly, many other things are happening. You can see, there's AI implementations in cybersecurity, in risk management, in AI, and all of that. For you, I pulled out these three top banks from the CB Insight, just to give you a sense that, these guys here, Capital One, have 430 patents out right now, where they are developing these type of features, which are not just B2B inroad facing, but they're customer facing as well. Meaning that banks are creating now customer facing interfaces to, for example, play the money market, which is 100% driven through AI. And the ability that AI has to go through structured and unstructured data, look at trends over the years and predict how the market is going seems to be so much better than what the individuals are doing. So JP Morgan is doing lots of work. They've got over 100 patents out. Royal Bank of Canada. These guys are going out and acquiring AI companies, recruiting AI talent, and so on. So there are hundreds of these type of professionals that are starting to come into the financial services. So a lot of stuff is happening. It's another paradigm that we are approaching, and this type of intelligence that is making decisions in the real time is required to power actually what we are calling the embedded finance revolution. Because in the embedded finance, what's happening is banking from a vertical is becoming into a horizontal, and it's now embedding itself in different entities, apps, and portals. But when a customer or a prospect wants a decision, those decisions are happening at the back through these real-time intelligences, and that's what's changing everything. Now I'm coming to the end of the talk, and this is still 3, 5, or 7 years away. But this is where everything is headed, and that's where the alarm is. So, if you were to look at history, you would understand and you would know that in the earlier days, the real power came from people owning land and water, because land and water were the real sources of power and control and resources. In the recent history, which you would say pre-industrialization, industrialization up to the digital age, people who had power were the people who were controlling machines. So whoever had the highest amount of machines had the greatest control. In today's world, it's become clear that people that are going to have will control the future. And Nova Harari, the guy that has written Sapiens and some of the other books, says that in the future, people who are going to control data are not only going to control the future of humanity, but they're going to control the future of life itself. So I have to ask you this question, that what is the most unexplored data source in the world today? That is the human body. The human body is having millions of biochemical reactions every few seconds. And imagine that if the human body is biohacked or is hacked, meaning that if all of those reactions, biochemical reactions, are being captured and now they're being uploaded onto the cloud, and it's not just happening for you, but it's happening for the large majority of people. Imagine what would happen then. And and one would say that why would it happen? So there are many reasons for it to be happening. I'll give you only two. One of them is that there is this new thinking coming out that people who will not use AI are going to, this type of AI to support their life, are going to be at a big disadvantage, at a competitive disadvantage. Similarly, like people who don't use digital today are at a disadvantage. And then the next conversation is that if I'm going to use Chat GBT or a intelligence from Google's Google or Google's intelligence, if I'm using now, they have their interest at heart. They don't have my interest at heart. They can do a lot of things for me, but they want eventually Google to win, or they want eventually Microsoft to win. Microsoft invested in OpenAI. OpenAI has ChatGPT. So people are saying, well, then I would want to pay a fee to have my own intelligence that is going to guide me through life. Now, your intelligence that is going to guide you through life needs data. And if you allow them to read you, then the AI is going to be able to give you much better output. For example, if I'm reading a book on Kindle, right? Let's say. So now if I read a paragraph, the machine can see that my eyes are dilating. If I allow the machine to see my blood pressure, if I allow the machine to see how my heart is fluttering, and so many other things, the machine would know what next book to recommend me. The machine would know what catches my fancy when I hear a song. The machine would know. So today, you go out and order a pizza, you want to know what's the pizza store, you want a haircut, you ask Google. You want to go to a doctor, you look for reviews. But very quickly, what's going to happen is that we are going to start to outsource more and more functions to the machine. And a stage is coming where the machine is going to be able to tell me who's going to be most likely a good marriage partner for me. And you know why? Because I will ask this question in the future to the machine, say, should I get married to Julie, Sheila, or Rano? The machine will say that, Sheila will be the right marriage because the machine has all the data of Sheila. So the machine knows when Sheila meets me, how excited she gets, and so on. And when I meet her, what are the feelings that I have versus all the other? And the machine will have enough data to know that whether the matches are successful and not successful, and so on. So people will start to go out and start to make these important decisions in their life based on data which they're not making, the machine is making. That's one case. That's why people will go out and willingly say that I'm okay to be biohacked. The other reason is that your employer will come to you, and say that I've created this executive health insurance package for you, but I'm getting a 50% discount if all your vital signs are being uploaded. And if you don't do that, you would have to pay the premium. That's what they say in the beginning. In the end, there won't be any option. You would have to be. So now, if you're sitting there and smoking a cigarette, The machine is going to tell you, you can't smoke a cigarette, Tariq Saab, anymore. Give it a break. So, and you will say, why? And the machine is going to say, if you don't do that, I'm going to send a message to your wife. I'm going to send a message to your team. I'm going to send a message to your children. I'm going to send a message to your insurance company. And you just can't do that. So what I'm saying is that where all of this headed is that, the power of an individual is going to be at stake, and it's going to move to the algorithms. And the theory is that organisms have algorithms because they have these biochemical reactions and they can be measured. That means they have algorithms. So biology into computing power, into data, is your ability to hack the human species. Now, it's this worry which people are starting to echo now. And there are people like Nova Harari, Elon Musk, Sam Altman, and this Google chief Hinton, Gregory Hinton, who's just left Google and saying that I'm here because I want to. So they've created these forums, and these forums are saying, I'm finishing. These forums are saying two things. These forums are saying that, look, we need to regulate AI because it can convert into mass, it can weaponize itself. Uh, through chemical warfare or taking control of submarines. They're saying that it can go out and create mass campaigns and influence politics, which it already is doing, right? And then they're going out and saying that people who will control this data, will have abnormal amounts of power over the ones who are not controlling. And the last risk that they're saying, which is not good for humanity, is that it's saying people will become overly dependent on AI and would not be able to live. So what they're saying is that we got to go out and harness this, this force, like we go out and control, nuclear weapons, or like we go out and control biotech. Like in biotech, you can't go out and test viruses on people. At least you're not supposed to do. Similarly, AI technology should not be applied to people and masses immediately. And there's a lot of buy-in in that. So the long-term stuff is scary. And the long term is anywhere more than 5 years. But the short-term stuff, which is the next 2 to 3 years, is very, very exciting. And I just thought that, I should talk about this and be the first people to talk about this on this forum, so that this forum makes this transition from the GPRS 2.0 to all the in between things, and now a era of the kind of stuff that we're talking about. And I hope that this conference continues for the next 15 years also, and becomes a center stage for many things that we decide in this industry and in this country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Qasif. That was a very informative session. And it is so interesting to see how AI is like the future and how it is like transforming the way we live and the evolution of AI and how it is impacting every single aspect of our lives. And especially one thing that he said about a research by Goldman Sachs really stuck with me, that 1/4 of the world will be operating differently in a few years from now than how it is operating right now. How interesting it is to think about. So ladies and gentlemen, it is now my pleasure to present a fireside chat featuring two esteemed industry colleagues, Mr. Najib Agrawala, CEO of OneLink, and Mr. Humayun Sajjad, SCVP Group, the Chief Digital Banking of National Bank of Pakistan. They will be discussing the exciting topic of revolutionizing the fintech and payment industry. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Najib and Mr. Humayun.
हाँ जी, अस्सलाम वालेकुम।
अस्सलाम वालेकुम
जी नजीब
जनाब। तो थोड़ा सा फॉर्मेट बता दें। वी हैव अबाउट 15-20 मिनट्स आई थिंक। हम लोग ऑब्वियसली आपको थोड़ा सा बताएंगे कि व्हाट इज ये उनको देखें। वी विल शेयर विथ यू कि हमारे